This is the Gotham podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking about The Penguin, Episode 3, Bliss.
If I took off, I don't think that, it's weird. It's like, he kind of likes having me around. He's kind of lonely. And I've seen stuff, stuff that I shouldn't have. So if I left, I don't know what he would do.
Then you definitely shouldn't stay. I mean, nothing good can come from working for a guy like that. That is not who you are.
Welcome back, fellow Gothamites. This is the Gotham podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're talking all things The Penguin, Episode 3, Bliss. I am one of your hosts, John.
I am your other host, Derek. Welcome back to another episode of The Penguin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I really liked this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
I liked how, in a sense, a little bit of the focus not entirely on Oz here.
Yep.
I thought it was an interesting choice to do, to focus on, I guess, maybe, his up-and-coming right-hand man in Victor, and just seeing a bit more of Victor's background. I thought it was a really good choice.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it. And also, a bit of a metaphor, really. You take the eye off Oz, and he'll screw you.
Absolutely.
And in a sense, what happens, or I guess seemingly happens by the end of this episode for Sophia. So I kind of just really enjoyed this. It almost felt a little wholesome, dare I say it.
Interesting.
Certainly, at least with Oscorp and Victor.
Yeah.
I think their dynamic is excellent.
It's really good, yeah. It seems like Oz really cares for Victor, doesn't it? There's actually an official Penguin podcast from HBO where Matt Reeves was interviewed and Laura LaFranc, the showrunner, were interviewed about why this particular story stood out as the one they wanted to tell, because there were loads of options for spin-offs on TV for the Batman movie that Matt Reeves made. I think there was supposed to be an Arkham one, there was supposed to be a new GCPD one, and then the Penguin one kind of came up. And Lauren LaFranc's idea that she came with, which was having Victor, our point of view character, who should by all rights be dead by the end of episode 1, him being kept alive by Oz and being taught how to kind of rise up in the underworld of Gotham, was the selling point for why she got the job as the showrunner for the show. So it is all about this really odd point of view, having this kid rising up with this very dangerous criminal at his side. And
who's rising up at the same time against
exactly.
the old guard.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
kind of like it's the new breed.
Yeah.
It's like Gremlins, the new breed. They are coming in to sort of wash away the old Falcone and Maroni hegemony within Gotham.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And this episode really epitomizes that.
It really does.
Yeah.
And I love that kind of notion of the mentoring. I think some really good sort of one-on-one conversations here between Oz and Victor.
Yeah.
I'm really, really enjoying Renzi Feely's portrayal.
So
from episode 1, I just thought this character was really good. Loved the point of view, and it's continuing.
Yeah.
I would say that actually this character, to all intents and purposes, not only could have died in episode 1, they could have been killed by Oz in episode 2 and again in episode 3. So literally, Victor is a scrapper in the same way that Oz is. And
Agreed.
I guess there's that spirit animal sense that Oswald has here,
Absolutely. Like there's a moment in this. I know we're going to go into the episode and talk about it in full detail, but there's a moment in the episode where Oz puts a gun to Victor's head and goes, is this what it feels like? Is this what your entire life feels like at the moment? Just a gun at your head? And you're going, well, in episode 1, you put a gun to his head and basically we're telling him to get into the back of a car. In episode 2, you put him in a grave and told him that he should be lying there with dead body. And here you are in episode 3 actually putting a gun to his head. So it probably does feel like that.
Absolutely. But also just to the spirit animal sense as well. It's like there is a wonderful moment in Oz's little sort of bougie bachelor pad where he's effectively been told to stay put in the end, whereas Oz was priming him to be the driver for both him and Sophia around this new drug for that evening. And he just says, you have to stay put. If you do anything stupid, I'll sense it.
Absolutely.
Like he's there is this sense of he knows because of what he would do himself. And I kind of really like that different yet similar vibe from both Oscorp and Victor. It's really, really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But we are obviously going to get into our spoiler-filled discussion about this episode. I hope you've watched it because it is another excellent episode of The Penguin. Just want to say a huge thank you to all of you who've subscribed to the podcast so far and have joined us. A lot of returning listeners from our time on Gotham, John, who are excited to hear our coverage back in the world of Gotham. So really nice to hear from a lot of you over the last couple of days when we released our episodes as well. If you haven't subscribed to the podcast, pop on over to our website at tvpodcastindustry.com. We have our Gotham TV podcast over there, which has all of our coverage of the 5 seasons of Gotham, plus all the seasons of Pennyworth as well, the kind of prequel series to Gotham, and all the episodes of The Penguin, and all the movies that we've covered in the DC universe, including The Batman, of course, from Matt Reeves. You can subscribe over there on any ornithological or gangster podcast player. And we'd love to hear your thoughts on any of the episodes of The Penguin. We are recording in advance as the episodes come out, but we will talk about your feedback on the next episode. So send your feedback into feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com or pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/tvpodcastindustries.
Yeah, speaking of which, I think we should get into our feedback for episode 2 from our fellow Gothamites. We got an email from Meryl Smith, who sent in her feedback to feedback@gothamtvpodcast.com. So an old email there for Meryl Smith's feedback. So great. Yes, you can also send in your feedback, theories, observations, or comments through that email as well.
Absolutely. It's great to hear from somebody over there.
Yeah, absolutely. Meryl says, it's so great to be back in the Gothamverse in a way. A story about the Penguin's rise to become the King of Gotham is a story we've seen before, but there are always different ways to tell that story. Colin Farrell completely steals the show with his performance and disappears so seamlessly beneath the makeup that I gotta constantly remind myself that it's him underneath it. And let's not forget the wonderful and captivating Kristen Milotti as Sophia Falcone. What is it about this character that keeps me wanting to watch her on screen? First Gotham, then the Long Halloween animated film, and now this. I look to seeing how the story further grows and what twists it may yield going forward. Excellent stuff, Meryl. Absolutely. I mean, as I say, this is a real age-old story for the Penguin. The rise of Penguin to become the king of Gotham, the gangster of Gotham, the main man of the criminal underworld of Gotham. One that I guess feels comfortable with the other types of criminals that start to come apparent in Gotham, such as the Joker or the Riddler. He
sits alongside those supervillains very well, but he definitely got his inspiration from the mob bosses that were there before him. But it's so interesting. Again, we had season after season of the Penguin on Gotham telling the story, but it is being told in a very different way here. We know as fans of the DC verse, I guess, and the Batverse, we know that the Maronis and the Falcones will be completely eviscerated and removed from Gotham in the future, and someone like the Penguin is going to be the one taking over. So there's something deeper and something more scary about the Penguin, and how he's going to twist the city to his will. But you're totally right. Colin Farrell is so good in this part that I regularly forget it's him. I know he's doing that really cool Robert De Niro type New York accent. I'm certain he's taking inspiration from movies like Goodfellas for his performance. But we've seen him so many movies with an Irish accent and with his Dublin accent. It's very rare to see him with this American and New York accent specifically, and he does it so well. underneath that amazing makeup as well. You know, he in all the interviews he's had, he really talks about the makeup process, but I think there's much more going on in his acting than just the makeup as well. He's so good here.
Yeah, and Chris, as you say, Christy Milotti as Sophia, really good. And I think in particular, you know, I think we get to see a bit more of her background this episode, which is really good, and her relationship with the male-dominated Falcone cartel family. So it's really good, and I think, you know, moving forward, some of the other episodes should be really good with her at the center of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Meryl. Great to hear from you again, and I hope you're enjoying the rest of the season of Penguin. Please keep sending in your feedback to us. We also had an email in from Victor about episode 2 saying, "Greetings, Gothamites. I am really enjoying this series so far. If one did not know the character or story, one would not suspect this is a comic book film, but a rather scary gangster story. Sophia is terrifying as ever. Will she have a total meltdown and morph into the comic she-killer? I like the film formula in use here. Everyone loves good detective stories, and between Bats and his rogues galleries, there are plenty in the offing. Think on your feet. Victor Zaz von Doom."
Thanks so much, Victor. I'm really glad you're enjoying it. Certainly, yes, I think Sophia Christy Milotti just has this ability in portraying Sophia. It's almost like she's on the verge of a crack, a meltdown, jumping from the cliff. That explosion of her reputation that comes before her rather than maybe the person who she is. And it's just really, really good. Yeah, agreed. I think we mentioned before that one of the things as Bat fans, you hear the words Arkham and you know this is going to be a character that will have a big journey. You know, in the past, when you have characters that go to Arkham, it changes those characters significantly. Before they go into Arkham, they might be petty criminals who may have pled that they have mental illnesses, thinking that they'll get an easy ride. But in Gotham, if you get sent to Arkham, it's going to twist you into a very violent person. And it feels like Sophia's on the edge all the time and that she's going to have some kind of violent outburst. You saw her with her therapist, Theo Rossi, in episode 2, and it felt like she was about to get very violent with her, but because he's a therapist, he's able to kind of calm her down and get her out of there. But I have a feeling somebody else is going to get knifed or killed by Sophia at any point in the future. That's what it feels like with the character. She's playing it so well. Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much, Victor. Absolutely. Thanks, Victor Zaz. I like your new name. Maybe in the future it'll be Victor Guerra as we learn who he becomes in the Gotham universe. Maybe he'll stand out as a big character in the future. Could be Zaz. It could be Zaz. It could be Zaz. Thanks so much, Victor. Also, an email in on episode 2 from Coffee and Vodka, who says, "Greetings, fellow plan hatching defenders. Not much to say. A very dramatic day in the life of the death-defying Artful Dodger that constantly keeps you on edge. What struck me was, as different in appearance as this iteration is, how similar in character and tactics he is to Gotham's Robin Lord Taylor's. Any idea how much inspiration LeFranc and Reeves might have taken from Heller? Anyway, continue to be blown away by every aspect of the show. 5 power-grabbing pinky swears, cryptic assignations, and planted pocket poignards out of 5. Peace and take care, Coffee and Vodka." Thanks so much, Coffee and Vodka. It's interesting, actually, because over the last kind of couple of weeks, we've been watching season 1 of Gotham. We have, yeah. And very different from the show, but at its core is absolutely this. Yes, despite the difference in appearance, the more episodic nature of that show, given it was 22 episodes for season 1, you know, the core through line was exactly the same here. It's very just similar, executed in a very different way. And I do think that to what extent inspiration for LeFranc and Reeves might have taken from Bruno Heller and Danny Cannon, I think certainly they are going to be aware of that show. Yeah. But I think the actual core of the story is quite deeply rooted in the comics. This notion of the Penguin rising through the criminal underworld. Yeah. That would be my thinking on it anyway, is that I don't know to what extent they would have taken too much inspiration from Bruno Heller and Danny Cannon, because I think in a sense both sets of creatives are coming at it from the DC perspective. Yeah. I'm sure they have a similar kind of connection to people in DC who help them out with cracking some of the stories or getting them a bit closer to the comics. And, you know, you're telling the story of
Oz Cobb, you know, this character of the Penguin, who is the person that's a wheeler dealer trying to, you know, make his way in the underworld. So it's not going to be vastly different. The only genuine mention I've heard about it is in interviews, Colin Farrell being asked about who's his favourite Penguin, and he mentions things like Danny DeVito and Burgess Meredith, of course. And all he says about Gotham is, I can't wait to see Robin Lord Taylor's performance because everybody tells me that's the best Penguin performance, and I can't wait to watch it now that I'm finished with my version of the Penguin. So I wonder if he was just told, don't watch it, because your story could be quite similar to that, so you need to create your own version of the Penguin. So I'd wonder if he's watched it now, because he says in all of his interviews, people tell him how good Robin Lord Taylor played this character and his approach to it. So I don't know whether they took inspiration, but it is obviously a very similar journey. So there are going to be elements that are very similar, even if they didn't take directly from it. So, and that's the feeling when we were watching the episodes. We're going, oh yeah, he does that thing where he turns on people around him and he uses everybody around him to get his own way and to get himself to this highest point and as the king of Gotham, just like Colin Farrell's character. But it is coincidental, but it's based on the same character. So of course there are going to be similarities there.
I mean, I think I've said this before, the only downer element of it is the same entry point for characters.
Yeah.
And that's why it would be really, really good to see the Penguin with a season 2.
Yep.
As I say, whether Colin Farrell would want to deal with the prosthetics and the makeup for a season 2, I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I think that's one of the main issues now that I probably have after covering Gotham and DC for 10 years, is that a lot of similar through lines happen. And I think actually it's why with the Matt Reeves film, I was really pleased it was Riddler at the heart of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
First off, it's a character I really, really enjoy, but it's a character, I think has been underutilized. It's the classic serial killer type film trope of leaving clues for the detectives investigating him, and it's a really good one. It's also a good entry point for the Batman world for non-comic fans.
Absolutely, and interestingly, their version of the Riddler was vastly different to Corey Michael Smith's version in Gotham. There was no real connection between those two at all. It's a completely different character. But just to mention, I think Victor mentioned about the film idea. Batman 2 will be coming out in the future. It's being written and made by Matt Reeves, and he says that this series will leave you off in a place where, when we see what happens with the Penguin, it'll be the starting point of Batman 2. So I would say this season will get rid of all of the Falcones and the Maronis, and Penguin will be standing in the underworld. Whether he's a central character in the second movie or not, it will be taking off at that point where there'll be no longer that mafia boss type over there as well. Brilliant stuff. Thanks, Coffee and Vodka, for your feedback. Thanks, everyone, for your feedback, actually.
Yes, absolutely. Keep the feedback, thoughts, observations, theories coming in. How do you like the Penguin series so far? But I think with that, we can move on to our spoiler-filled discussion of episode 3, Bliss. Derek, who gave us what, where, when, and how?
Well, the show is based on characters created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane for Detective Comics, spinning out of Matt Reeves' The Batman under showrunner Lauren LeFranc. This episode was written by Noelle Valdivia. She's written loads and loads of drama, including Nobody Wants This and Kevin Kneff himself, but also wrote an episode of Ash vs. Evil Dead for season 3. I absolutely loved that show, so I'm so glad someone involved in that is moving on to other shows. Go check that out. It's a great fun,
it's so good
horror comedy. And this episode, once again, is directed by Craig Zobel, who directed episode 1 and 2. John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for The Penguin, episode 3, Bliss?
Sure. Before the Riddler's explosions, Victor was hanging out with his friends and girlfriend, Gracilia, on a rooftop in Crown Point, dreaming about their future. Unbeknownst to them, everything was about to change as the election night fireworks turned to explosions, flooding Crown Point, killing their families and destroying their homes. Now Victor and Gracilia discuss getting out of Gotham and starting a new life together, but only if Oz Cobb will let Victor leave. Meanwhile, Sophia Falcone's business opportunity comes through and she takes Oz to the production warehouse for the new drug, Bliss, a sap from a mushroom prescribed to Sophia when she was locked up in Arkham. Oz sets up a meeting with the Triads to help distribute the sample batch of the new drug, but they have to blackmail the cheating underboss of the Falcone family, Johnny Vitti, to support their new business. Vitti tries to undermine Oz, telling Sophia that he's the one that sold her out and landed her in Arkham, but Oz pressures him further and they get their way. With a nightclub trial arranged to showcase Bliss to the Triad leader Feng Zhao, Sophia has to reveal her traumatic past to him to seal the deal. She begins to get concerned that Oz believes he is an equal partner in her business, and as he apologizes for his part in Sophia's 10-year incarceration in Arkham, Nadia Maroney and her men arrive, angry at Oz's betrayal of the Maroney cartel, and they hold the two at gunpoint. Victor, meanwhile, has made his decision to return to Oz's side and arrives just in time to save his boss. As they speed away, Oz tells Victor to leave Sophia behind. They are really in it now.
They are really in it now.
They really are in it.
There's just moments.
Very in it.
Yeah, there's just those moments throughout the episode where you see Oz playing people all around him, and as you get to the end, as this end point happens where he's like, just leave Sophia behind, let's go, move fast, we're in it now. You're kind of going, what has just happened? Why has he just dumped Sophia behind with effectively the leader of the Maroney family outside prison? Sal Maroney's in prison, but he's left her behind effectively at gunpoint after saying, don't you worry, I'll be right by your side forever, we're partners in this. And then he's like, leave her behind, off we go.
Absolutely, but first of all, there is, absolutely that contrast with what he's just been saying with how it ends up being left with Sophia in a very dangerous situation, surrounded by members of the rival cartel in the Maroneys. But this show does a really great thing with some of the sound mixing or editing I found. And it's to that point of Victor in the car. It's almost as though the camera perspective and the sound perspective is looking at Victor in his own thoughts.
Yeah.
But there's enough of the background noise, whether it's the explosions or the gunshots, or indeed Oswald talking, and just the whole thing of where he's like, he says, leave Sophia.
Yeah.
But then he's like, I knew you would come through. All this is all kind of done in a kind of slightly muffled tone.
Yes.
Of, I knew you would come through. You were fantastic. I knew you would.
Yeah.
You really stepped up there. We're really in it now. Hence the last sentence of our synopsis. But it's all kind of done in a muffled way. And because you're there with Victor, and it's a really good technique I've found, and it's been done a few times in this show, and I really like it as a technique.
Absolutely, and it does feel like something that matches in so well with Matt Reeves' The Batman movie. Like it feels like that style as well. Yeah. But as we start at the end, let's go into our case file for this episode with our top 5 case notes, John.
Yes. Case note number 1, fireworks on election night.
Wow.
So we get a little bit of a flashback here before the waters break on Gotham and the Riddle attack. And it's all from Victor's point of view, with his family, with his friends, and with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And seemingly that, this normal kid from downtown at Crown Point wanting to spend time with his friends, him and his sister wanting his dad to maybe, ask for a bit more cash from some of the bespoke pieces that he's delivering to mechanics around Gotham that he's doing. And it's a real nice point, the little hint of tensions between Victor and his father, both because Victor's asking him to charge a bit more for some of these like niche items that they're being able to source. Which I love the response elicited to that from his dad, which is, well, if you remembered where we came from, we have plenty.
Yes.
It's kind of, we are comfortable. This isn't hard up. This is comfortable.
Living well.
And living well. Yeah. Even though they live in a poor part of Gotham in, a 2-3 bed apartment. Yeah. So I kind of really like this, and that's that source of tension here, the source of tension of some of the friends that Victor is keeping, which is primarily one of the guys that we see in episode 1, the guy who is actually captured by Sophia Falcone and killed.
Yeah, that's Calvin.
Yeah, Calvin. But not because of Calvin, but because of Calvin's cousin, Squid, who has a reputation for, I guess, being sort of a minor petty criminal.
He's a drug dealer.
Running with a gang. Yeah,
he's a drug dealer. Yeah, he's got his tentacles in lots of pies. I think
yeah, so it's all these kind of sort of really succinctly brought together, but showing this hope with Victor and his girlfriend as they're there to watch fireworks.
Yeah, but also shows us a little bit about Victor's want to have a better life than his family had, and that's something that comes up a little bit later on as well in the episode. But there is that bit about Victor about not accepting the life as it is in his conversation with his father, even though when he has the conversation with his girlfriend Gracelia, where she's saying she hates this part of Gotham, she wants to get out of there. If you were looking at this part of Gotham from the other side of the city, which Victor's commenting how beautiful Gotham is at this time and then this place, she's saying if you were looking back on where we live, you would recognize how horrible the area is. She wants to get out of there as soon as possible. So he still wants to stay in the area, but wants to have a better life, is the way that it kind of comes across. And that kind of speaks to what we heard from Oz Cobb in the first episode when he was talking to Falcone, saying, that he effectively talking about his dream to become a boss that was respected in the local community.
Yeah.
And that was a kind of a small time dream for Falcone.
And I think it's to the point, I mean, it's to the point of the two of them, in a sense, being slight spirit animals about what they want. And it's also a good setup for those touch points through this episode. But also it's the realization that you get as to what Victor has lost, because with, instead of the fireworks, you get the explosions. And because they do live in the poor part of town, they're close to these huge concrete levees that have been undermined by these explosions, and you effectively see the river pouring in like a tsunami going straight for his family's apartments. And this again comes back up a bit of PTSD from when he's in the club selling the drug because of the noise and the atmosphere there. But also, it's after him kind of speaking, as you say, fondly about the city where he lives. He just wants to improve his position, but he doesn't want to move away in the same way that Gracelia does. And then he sees his family home effectively being completely taken out by this wall of water.
That's amazing. I don't know whether that was model work that was done to show that, or whether it's all CGI, but it looks fantastic. It really looks like the high budget spin-off from the Batman that we've got here.
Yeah, it's really good.
But just some of the other tension that's added in there, where he tries to call his mom on the phone as their home is being flooded. It's a really scary scene that they have. And I want to ask some other Bat fans out there, because there's something that struck me. I'm a big fan of Michael Keaton's Batman, and particularly the soundtrack by Prince, as John will know. I listened to it quite a lot. There's a scream in the background as the fireworks go off, as they think the fireworks are going off, and then it turns into more and more explosions. There's a scream in the background that I'm absolutely convinced was used on the Batman soundtrack and was a sample from the Tim Burton Batman movie. So if any of the Bat fans notice that, let me know. It's just
interesting.
It's a scream in the background. I'm certain it's from the DC archives from Tim Burton's Batman. Don't know why I recognize it, but I think it's because I've heard the Batman soundtrack so often. So there you go. So it might be Kim Basinger's scream from the Batman, but just noticed it in that scene. But I do think it's such a well presented moment, and to open this here, giving us this episode is going to be Victor's backstory, and as it kind of cuts to him sitting in Oz's apartment, having these memories and being lost in that moment of the night he lost everything, I guess. I thought it was such a great start to the episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think on to our case note number 2, Oz and Sophia meet the triad.
Yeah. The kind of opens this second case note with Sophia coming over to the apartment, and just to show the delicate balancing act that Oz is doing, just as she arrives, he gets a phone call from Sal Maroni from prison. So he has to deal with one set of the criminal underworld before going out to deal with his new partner in Sophia Falcone. I just think that's really good, and then leaves Victor, the nervous kid, to try and deal with, as he says himself, the hangman who's arriving in the house. In his head, probably he's going, oh my God, I thought my life was difficult enough dealing with Oz. I've got to deal with a person that has killed 9 women before, 9 people before. Maybe she'll kill me if I say the wrong thing. You know?
Yeah, like she's the hangman, he says. Yeah. But you have from Oz, don't believe everything you read in the papers. Mm-hmm. Again, the first maybe hint that it's possibly the nickname is undeserving. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I love that. I think it's also great in this moment that again, you have Oz giving Victor his first paycheck of $1,000. Then he's moving forward. He's going to get the 1,000 per week. And the Penguin saying, it's what you're worth. And he goes, well, I'm worth 2. And you see Oz really enjoying that.
I love that
sort of moment. And
how are people going to know what you're worth if you don't tell them, I want 2,000?
Yeah, exactly. And then you have, the Penguins prepping Victor, tonight's the night, we need your head in the game, as he will be driving Penguin and Sophia. So again, this whole mentoring element coming through from Oz to Victor, and as I say, then having him sort of nervously interact with Sophia as she's waiting for him. And equally then she exposes a bit of backstory about Oz, where Oz was her driver, and when she realizes that Victor is his driver and he is Victor the mechanic. So interesting here.
And I feel like as the episode goes on, you kind of get from Sophia that in that moment she instantly judges Victor.
Yeah.
She instantly looks at Victor as, what's he like in relation to when Oz was my driver? Is he the same kind of person that turned on me like Oz did? It's like as if she realizes, oh, hang on a second, he's in the position that Oz was in the past. And maybe Oz wanted to present that to her as well. I have my own driver now, we're both equals. Like I was your driver, now I have my own driver, and now we're both partners. So maybe that's why Oz was trying to present that to her. But she cuts it off instantly and says, no, this is me and you, we're going out. So Oz and Sophia are going to go out to find the bliss, to get this drug, and he's going to learn what the full deal is behind this new drug coming into Gotham.
Yeah, and it's twofold. It's not only Oz's first interaction with the new drug, but it's also then Sophia needing him to find a distribution base for this trial of its use, because it can't be any of the existing distribution, because they will immediately go back to Luca or Johnny Vitti or Milos. So there is this other aspect of Sophia using Oswald in order to use his connections, and his connections are primarily with the Gotham triads. But I think first off, they go to the warehouse, and there's always been this talk about the shipment coming in, but in fact, it's growing media from Arkham that is the shipment in. What we have here is a mushroom growing plant or warehouse in the downtown, and you have the chemist Trey Bloom, which I like that, and you have the skeptical reaction from Oswald at the start. He's like, well, you can get mushrooms anywhere, this isn't very revolutionary, but it's the bleeding tooth mushrooms, and it's using its sap, and this is the route because that's what was used at Arkham, and that Sophia was given in order to effectively make the inmates of Arkham compliant. Effectively, it took the pain, it took their moments away, because it subdued them and took them away from where they were, which was in Arkham.
And made them all compliant, There's a great line as well between Oz and Sophia, where he realizes the drug is from Arkham and turns around to Sophia and goes, I thought this was all Al's plan. And Sophia looks back at him going, I know you did. Again, somebody else underestimating Sophia and underestimating her plans, underestimating her knowledge and what she brings to the table. So I like that, because again, it puts them on that footing, that unstable footing that we see throughout the episode, where even though Oz is proclaiming that he's there for her, he wants her to have a great life, he's still underestimating her, and he's still saying this was a plan that he heard from Al, even though he didn't get any details on it at all. And Sophia wasn't really involved. She was just the little sister who was in prison, and this was going to be a reward for her when she came out. But it turns out this is all Sophia's plan, really. Al was just going to be bringing the financing for it, effectively. And that financing is the jewels that were taken by Oz in the first episode. So they came back here. They're finally used to pay for the drugs and set up this new business for bliss for Sophia and Oz.
Yeah, absolutely. And then they also then meet with one of the underbosses of the Triads, Link Sai.
I love this.
And it's a really good moment. It is really telling in that Link Sai equally does not trust Oz Cobb.
Yeah.
He's really suspicious. I mean, it's primarily through the fact that he gave him a lorry full of contraband cigarettes and hasn't seen any money. Oz has literally turned up with maybe a box of top shelf spirits and thinking that's somehow, maybe recompense for that. But he is like, as always, Oz is gift of the gab. Well, you'll get your money. If you didn't, I would have a bullet between my eyes here.
I like it. I ripped you off, but I know I didn't do too bad because I'd be dead otherwise.
Yeah,
basically.
Exactly.
Oz's idea, yeah.
But I think the other element of the distrust of Oz by Ling Zai here, because all of this is in front of Sophia. He has a moment where he just says to Oswald in front of Sophia, I always knew it was a matter of time that you made a move, right in front of Sophia. And I think Sophia's underriding suspicion throughout this episode, and we see a few elements of this, in particular at the club later on, is can she really trust Oz herself?
Absolutely.
And here is someone saying, I don't trust you.
Yeah.
Or one of two people.
Yeah.
That I don't trust you. So
I don't trust you, and I believe always you've had your eyes on making a play, like making a coup, and now you've got one of the Falcones on side,
Yeah, I love that Oswald's response is, it's not a coup. What, have you been reading books again, Link? This is more of a corporate restructuring.
Absolutely.
Here I've got Sophia.
Yeah.
And again, it's a bit Oz taking the lead. Again, the distrust, different levels of it coming in. First, Link is saying it to Oswald in front of Sophia, but Sophia is feeling it as well because of Oswald kind of putting it out there as his,
Yeah. And it's just like gangster jazz here with talking to Oz, because he just thinks on his feet so much. You can see it on Sophia's face. Wait a minute, we didn't agree this beforehand, But what Link wants is a phone call from a member of the family. They're saying Johnny Vidi's on their side. Link wants a phone call from a member of their family approving this so that they don't get into trouble with the Falcones. And Sophia's saying, well, we've got Johnny Vidi on our side, and Oz is going, yeah, no problem. I'll have a phone call with you within the next couple of days to approve all of this. Sophia goes along with it, but you're kind of going, does she really believe that Oz will be able to organize this and that she'll be able to organize this? She's a really bad, of everybody in the family, Johnny Vidi's the one that she has the real problem with. He threatens her in this episode.
Really good.
He tells her that if Luca tells you to get on a plane to Italy, you go right now. You have 2 days. And if you don't get on that plane, I'll tell people that's where you went. As in, I will kill you and tell everybody you're in Italy.
It's such a good threat,
isn't it?
As you say, it goes, you've got 2 days to go to Italy, or I tell people that's where you went.
It's such a good threat.
So good.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, you can see it with Sophia, because even the drug name is just announced by Oz.
That's
here,
right. Yeah.
Bliss.
Yeah.
And you can see Sophia trying to process that he is kind of working in real time here, and that none of this, everything that he is saying to Link Zai, is effectively not true.
Yeah.
And again, this real time lying subterfuge, and hers is real time. Well, what can I trust with this man?
Yeah, it's like, if he's saying this to other people, what's he been saying to me all these years as well? So I love that, and it's it's very much about how Oz chooses his words. when he's talking, everybody kind of sees it, that he's working. He's got all the right things to say, or chooses the right things to say. So it is playing on Sophia's mind when she's in dealings with Oz, that he doesn't really know what's going to come out of his mouth next, but it may accomplish the goal that they have planned, I suppose.
Yeah, and ultimately, I think, move on to case note number 3 here, the blackmailing of Johnny Vesey, because in order to get Johnny Vesey to give the phone call to Feng Shao, the leader of the triads that Lin Sai is one of the underbosses for, to say there is support here for this plan. They need to then work on Johnny Vesey. Again, a really dangerous situation that comes here, because like you said, you've had Johnny Vesey threatening Sophia here, but also Johnny and Oz are not friends whatsoever.
Not at all.
It is also dealing with Luca Falcone's wife, and so you have Oz having to go to his wife to say, I want you to do something. So what he's got over Johnny, he's also got over Luca Falcone's wife.
And tells her it's going to hurt as well. You're going to have to do this, and it's going to hurt. So I know all about it. The other added layer that's in here, and we talked about it last week on episode 2, the added layer here, that Oz really does want to get back at Johnny for what he did, for taking away his business effectively in New York. He talks about it a little bit later on in the episode here, that he was so proud of everything that he'd accomplished, and in one day, because of the death of Carmine Falcone, his business was taken away specifically by Johnny. So it seems like he's always trying to get back at Johnny Vesey, and takes his opportunity here. But the extra layer that's added, and you heard it on the phone call with Sal Maroni at the beginning of the episode, he also handed over the photographs of Johnny Vesey sleeping with Luca Falcone's wife to the Maroni family as part of his way to get out. And he tells Sal at the beginning of the episode, did your wife give you those photographs? Now you got something on Johnny Vesey, and he's now used that blackmail to get what he wants. So is that what causes the Maronis to arrive at the end of the episode, that they're aware that he's just taken the prize that he gave them and used it for his own benefit, not for theirs? I wonder if that was part of it. But it's a great scene. It's a really good scene where we have Johnny knowing that he's caught having sex with the boss's wife by the two of them, and he tries everything to get out of it. Yeah, no, he does, but everything to get out of it is trying to throw Oz under the bus. I mean, there is no love lost here. Oz is wound up by Johnny and vice versa. He tries to tell what Sophia already knows, that it was Oswald that told Falcone, and part of the reason why it then led to her being incarcerated in Arkham. It's also that he winds Oz up by saying, you were kept around for entertainment, as they sure don't trust you. Yeah, you might be a fun guy at a card game, but nobody trusts you. Everybody thinks you're an idiot, basically. Exactly. So Oz just going for him across the room. It's so good. I mean, even, and Johnny Vesey saying how he took the venues that used to be controlled or under Sophia from her when she was in Arkham. So all of this kind of distrust, betrayal, all being layered in. And the response of Oz here is great. I mean, I really just shoving the remote control down his throat, and effectively saying, you're going to back Sophia as well. And you have to show that support to Feng Shao of the Triads. I thought it was really, really good. But again, you kind of just have Sophia stood in the hotel bedroom going, I knew this. Again, I'm being spoken to as though I never lived this experience. I knew what happened after I was in Arkham, and it's a great kind of moment here. This is the moment for me of Christine Miliotti's performance as Sophia. She stands back, smoking a cigarette, looking at these two guys, fighting for her attention and support. One, her new partner, Oz, who she doesn't trust because what happened to him in the past. The other, Johnny Vesey, who's already threatened to kill her effectively within the same day, and is now pleading with her not to trust Oz and trust in him and the family. She's just looking at them going, the pettiness of both of them, the fact that I would give either of them my time of day. I need to accomplish what I want to accomplish, and right now in this moment it's getting Johnny Vitti to make that phone call. I think she just plays it so well, wordlessly,
superb,
until she eventually says, I knew all this, you're not telling me anything new. But as she just stands back watching these two boys go at it, basically. Really good scene, fantastic performance, just a silent performance, just deadly, really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think onto our case note number 4.
Yeah, this kind of central point of the episode, really, because as we said, this is an episode that really doesn't focus on Oz and Sophia. There's a lot of big moves that are happening there, but it is focused much more on Victor and his
Victor's
decision.
ever present, I think, within this. And part of it is Victor deciding about whether to leave Gotham with his girlfriend, Gracilia.
Yeah.
And just how that sort of gradually plays over time. You know, you have her saying, I'm going to get a bus. I'm going to leave Gotham, go to California, effectively.
Yeah. Other side of the country, very important that it's that far away as well, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, she kind of says, my family's dead, my school's underwater, and I don't particularly want to live in a FEMA camp anymore. And he takes her up. He says, like, get me a ticket, you know? But he does explain to her, he's just not sure whether he can. You know, he's torn. It is a decision. He does want to go, and he tells her to get him a ticket. Yet he does say to her, you know, when she comes over to Oz's apartment, that, you know, he says that Oz is a club owner, and then kind of gradually expands on that to say, well, the issue is he likes to have me around. It's like he can tell me stuff, but I've also seen stuff that I shouldn't have done because ultimately he's a mobster.
Yeah.
He's a mob boss. And I don't know whether I can actually leave because of him. It is the notion of, if I tell him I'm going to leave, will he kill me because I know too much? And you have him playing this out in front of the Triads club when he's driven Sophia and Oz there.
Yeah.
He's kind of running through what he'll say to him, and he's like, no, he's going to kill me. Definitely going to kill me.
Yeah.
And it's just, you know, that fear of what Oswald might do.
But I do think, even in the conversation that he's having with Gracilia, there is a conflict in the words that he's saying.
Yeah.
So he's not just saying, I can't leave because he'll kill me because of what I know. He is also saying, I think the guy likes having me around. I think he's lonely and he does care for me, but, you know, and I love Gracilia's response to him going, well, then you definitely should leave. If you know something that you're going to be killed for, you're in a terrifying situation, get the hell out of here now, you know? And he does agree with her and gives her the money for a hotel room for the night and for bus ticket for himself for the following day. But I did kind of laugh about the fact that just before Oz left, he gave the $1,000 to him, saying, you'll get $1,000 a week. And by the end of the episode, he's lost every single penny of that $1,000. Not only did he give about a couple of £100 away to Gracilia for the ticket and for the hotel for the night, he also lost all the money to the cop that got him out of his car, the GCPD officer who got him out of his car for parking in front of the club, and he lost all the rest of the money. So this is just a young guy who doesn't have anything in life losing every penny he has instantly.
He's torn between the potential of what Oz is offering him with his former life with his girlfriend and friends, and what she is suggesting that they do to make a better life, but also as well, sort of simmering away, is the notion of what his dad may have thought, his deceased dad. So, I mean, that's really complicated for Victor, running through all these different feelings and emotions to make that decision. You know, even were, you know, after he's described Oswald to her, she's like, well, nothing good can come of this relationship if you pursue that. And he says, you sound like my dad. You know, it's not a bad thing. And that's the thing. He's still got, there's a respect for his dad and his view, but also that generational thing of trying to break away that we saw in that opening bit, you know, that sort of different perspective.
Yeah. Make
from
your life
having
better.
been born and brought up in Gotham, say, rather than having emigrated there with nothing and building your way up. A different perspective on that.
Exactly.
And plus then the new father figure of Oswald with, you know, the important person that's still alive from his past life,
Yes.
asking him to do something. And I absolutely loved how this played out throughout the whole of this episode.
Yeah, I love how complicated it is. It's not simple. He's not looking up at Oz and going, I wish I had what you have, or looking up at the rest of the Falcones saying, I wish I had what you had. And I know you've said before there is a kind of an echo between Victor and Oz, that they are similar kind of people, but it's much more complicated than
absolutely.
that for Victor. He's not just following in Oz's footsteps. He has a similar upbringing beforehand, and now we're seeing this story of him being brought into this world. He has complicated thoughts about whether he should stay or not. And there's a great moment at that dinner in the beautiful restaurant, and they're waiting for Luca Falcone's wife to finish dinner, and they're having that conversation where Oz is very protective of Victor. Victor's stutter doesn't allow him to order the meal he wants to order quickly, and the waiter tries to rush him, and Oz cuts the waiter down instantly, tells Victor, you need to tell people to wait for you. You shouldn't feel bad about the way you have a stutter. You should tell them this is your world. Make space for yourself in the world. Take up space. Stand strong. And then tells him, as you said, he tells him that his father would be proud of Victor and the man he's becoming.
Yeah.
When Victor
And
knows, having had that conversation with his father, he absolutely wouldn't be proud of him, because he didn't even want him to go out with somebody that was related to a drug dealer.
But he toasts his dad. I mean, I actually thought it was a moving piece of, you know, this conversation between the two about how the Penguin is trying to sort of mentor in a fatherly way to some extent, or at least that's how, because of then him toasting Victor's dad, asking what his dad did. You have Victor saying, you know, but actually at his heart, he was a chef. He liked to cook, but he would never have been able to come to a fancy restaurant like where we are, you know, where they're having their meal. And it again just further complicates the issue, because you have, as you say, you have Penguin being outwardly protective of him because he's got this stutter, in the same way that Oz has got the club foot and the limp. He responds to Victor when he says, you shouldn't have done that. He says, no, I shouldn't, because you should be standing up for yourself. You should be the one telling the waiter to wait for you to say it. And then you have him asking about his past, his background, what he wants. And it really complicates, because it moves into then the nightclub, as he's using Victor as the bag runner to deliver the little vials of bliss to the paying customers in the club, where he says, you know, put your shoulders back, fill the space. You know, you're my man. You're doing the important job tonight.
Everybody wants what you have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
it.
you know, he kind of toasts Victor as the drug handler with his ladies in the club in that moment. And you see him, again, another little bit of responsibility for Victor from Oz here.
Yeah. And he seems so proud of him. Like, he seems like, okay, this is working out now. I'm mentoring this kid, and he's becoming strong. He's becoming better. He's becoming the way I want him to become. He's turning into the man that I want him to become. And understandably, when Victor eventually is in the bathroom and Oz comes in and finds out that he was thinking of leaving Gotham, understandably, I suppose, from Oz's point of view, he gets really angry at him. He feels from Victor that Victor thinks he's some kind of prisoner, that he feels like, as we mentioned earlier on, he feels like there's been a gun at his head to stay. And Oswald's going, absolutely not. You could have walked away at any time. Do you think I'm actually keeping you as a prisoner here? I don't want you around. If I was keeping you as a prisoner, I would have a gun at your head. And again, it feels like Oz could kill him right here. Could just put a bullet in his brain and be done with it.
Absolutely.
But Oz tells him to go. He tells him, if you want to leave, get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. I really kind of just how this played out, you know, because Oswald comes in with the deal having just been done with Zhao. Sophia has gone off. But Victor is the first person he tells that the deal is done. You know, you were my big man. You were my bag man. I'm proud of you, you know? And then he sees all the phone messages that have been coming, have been going backwards and forwards between Victor and Gracilia. And, you know, it breaks down because, in a sense, Penguin feels a little bit deceived, a bit betrayed here.
Yeah, actually, first off, he thinks that Victor's taking all the money that he's been gathering from the girls who are selling all the bliss, that he's going to take all the money and run off with the money. So instantly, Oz feels really betrayed right there. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you say, then the whole thing around being a prisoner. But I love that, again, and we've had this conversation from Oz to Victor previously about the world, doesn't care about you or your family. You're not going to get awards for dying in the projects, not having bettered yourself, real harsh. And it says, so you can go, and if you do, you won't deserve any of this.
Yeah.
And you have Victor heading out then to the bus station.
But taking the Maserati with him.
Yeah, well, that was kind of an interesting choice.
If he was going to leave on the bus, was he going to leave the Maserati at the bus station, or do you think he was already? Do you think he was taking it in anger at Oz, or do you think he was going to leave at the bus station for him? I guess
that is the interesting thing, because I think on the other side of it is that he ultimately doesn't go with Gracilia from that perspective.
Yep.
But equally, you could argue, because he's taken the Maserati, I mean, he could just leave that, and Oz, with his connections, at some point would probably have that found.
Yeah, they say it stands out, right?
But the other side of it is, has he made up his decision based on the conversation both in the bathrooms at the club, maybe from the restaurant, that he is actually looking to see if Gracilia stays in Gotham for him or whether she leaves. All of a sudden, I'm there going, he took the car because he knew he was always going to stay, but then he wondered, I want her to stay as well. But he wants to see, is that her choice? In the same way that she's there going, does he want to come with me? And that's his choice. So it's kind of coming from both sides of it.
Yeah.
And it could equally be that as well. And that's why he goes to the bus station to, maybe when he first went, there was something that he might just do it. But, by going there, he realizes, I'm either driving a Maserati or I'm 24 hours stuck in coach.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Or 2 or 3 weeks probably going across America on the coach. Yeah. But there is that moment where he walks a couple of steps past the Maserati and then kind of realizes he's got the keys in his pocket and goes back to get the car. I don't know whether it was just 2 figures up to Oz and he was going to steal the car.
Well, I think that as well.
But he does, by the time he gets to the bus station, he just watches Gracilia get on the bus and leave, and then he hightails it back over.
Yeah, he heads back towards the club to effectively take up his position with Oz,
Yeah.
But I think we can move on to our case note number 5 because things have happened in that period of time where Victor is thinking about going, having that conversation with Oz in the bathroom, and whilst he's been on the dance floor selling the drugs, because you've got this whole trial of the Bliss drug at the nightclub, and you have this great conversation between Sophia and the head of the triads, Feng Xiao.
Yeah.
Where, he's not convinced because of the betrayal from the Falcones.
Yes.
Where the Falcone family effectively pushed the triads out of the drug trade and limited their territory just to Chinatown.
That's right. Yeah.
And I like, again, Sophia always underestimated, goes, well, I've been doing some digging and I see that your father was a psychologist and this drug use is rooted in psychology. The world as they knew it has gone. These people on the club floor.
Yeah.
You've had Oswald saying how the price has been going up and up and up and people are still buying it. That's unheard of. But they need an escape, and this is a very powerful drug for that psychological need. And she goes, whoever controls it will control the future drug trade. You've seen what we have. You make the deal or you don't. And she walks off.
Yes.
She's like, that's it. I'm done. I've had to kind of expose my time in Arkham, having taken that, the reason for it, and saying, okay, the people on the dance floor might not be in Arkham,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the same kind of thing. They need that escape from their situation. And this is the fact that they've lost loved ones,
Mm-hmm.
their houses could be underwater, they've lost their job, whatever. They need that escape.
I really like this
Yeah.
argument that she has, this discussion that she has. I just think it works so well in Gotham as a city. You know, we've seen the underbelly of Gotham a lot in the past, but this idea that the reason why drugs are taking such a hold within Gotham is because the city has gotten so much worse. In the Batman movie, it was drops were the drug that everybody was addicted to, but drops doesn't seem to give the euphoria that Bliss is giving. This idea that you are completely relaxed, you are completely enjoying your experience. Drops seems more like a heroin drug, and this seems more like a party drug, as the girls describe it when they're about to sell it as well. So the way that Sophia says this is filling the need, the psychological need that the people of Gotham have, and you will control the streets of Gotham if you have this drug. I just really enjoyed it. But again, she does use her time in Arkham to sell it. She says it made us compliant, and she has to explain to this guy who doesn't trust her because she was in Arkham. She has to explain to him that the reason why she's the best partner here is because she understands what the drug actually does for you. I thought that was really good. But also, there is moments between Sophia and Oz where she is pushing back at him being the partner in this operation. It was supposed to be her brother, who she loved and spent all this time with over the years, the only one that was on her side. He was supposed to be her partner, and here she is stuck with Oz, who she knows, I'm sure, in the back of her mind, basically just overheard this plan and stole it, you know, and she doesn't want that at all. She even says Feng Zhao isn't here to meet Sophia Falcone and her driver. He's here to meet me, not you. Stick out of it. I'll do the deal. And then as she walks away at the end of giving the full explanation, she just goes to Oz, okay, you just do the deal. I don't even care anymore, basically.
Yeah. Like, Sophia and Oz's relationship certainly is not firm. As I say, she's seen two other people that distrust Oz, have made notions about, you know, he would make moves. And as you say, that whole thing before Feng Zhao is there is just really, really good. I mean, she also says, you say all the right things, and was it worth it, what you did to me?
Yeah, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because they have that conversation later on after she's walked away and she's outside waiting for the decision. And Oz doesn't run to her immediately, by the way. He goes down and talks to Victor first and then goes out to talk to Sophia. But they have that conversation, and it's interesting that she says, you always know the right words to say, and again confronts him saying, was it worth what you did to me? And what Oz goes is, yes, it was. I got all the things I wanted. I got the life I wanted. A guy like me getting the position that I got, being in charge of a whole area to sell drugs in this city, getting that responsibility from Carmel Falcone, it absolutely was worth what I did to you. But I am sorry for it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry for everything you went through.
Like, but the point he makes is that I got a better life. It might not mean as much to you, but for me, it was a step up.
And it was nothing that I ever could have imagined.
Yeah. And I'm sorry for everything that's happened to you. And I mean, even like he does say at the start, I didn't rat you out, whether that's true or not. But it's the thing afterwards where he says, whether that's true or not, you know, is debatable. I think he was probably Sophia's driver to keep tabs on her for her father.
Right. Maybe.
You know, it was just the handler, essentially. He was her protection, but also, if there was any whiff of betrayal, you know, it would go back to Falcone. But he said, I didn't realize he would do that to his own flesh and blood.
Yes.
And that was the suggestion that she ended up in Arkham because that's where Falcone wanted her to go with all the murders.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, could be that, absolutely.
That kind of suggestion. So it's kind of layered, nicely layered, I think.
It is, absolutely. But I just love that it starts out with her going, you always choose the right words, you always say the right things. And I think she's very surprised with Oz choosing the words that he chooses to say to her. Yeah? Because he's so careful about what the words he chooses with everybody else. It almost does bring her back into a little bit more trusting situation with Oz, because he is telling her the absolute truth. No, I don't regret doing it because look what I got. I am sorry for you because I did care for you and I still do care for you, but look what it got me. So I can't tell you I'm sorry for doing it, basically. And I think she's very surprised. But she ends the conversation with him saying, I don't know how to trust you. I don't know how we're going to work together. And he says, well, I'll just do things that will help you to trust me. And the next we see is effectively Nadia arriving, another person angry at another Oz betrayal, getting out of the car going,
awkward.
yeah, you betrayed me. So how would Sophia ever trust Oz? Victor comes in, takes out one of Maroni's men with the Maserati, denting the heck out of the front of the car, and takes Oz away. And as we said earlier on, Oz goes, leave her behind. And you're going, hang on a second, you literally just said a moment ago, I will do everything in my power to get you to trust in me. Yeah. And then you had Nadia come in, and then you left her behind with Nadia and Maroni.
What about Sophia? Leave her. I love it. And I do like you. We see this from Victor's point of view here. So he's coming back from the bus terminal after not getting the coach with his girlfriend, and sees Oz and Sophia on his knees with the gun pointed at him from a member of the Maroni gang, with Nadia there. He's going in there, yes, absolutely to save Oz, but presumably to save Sophia as well. He asks that question, what about Sophia? And it's just like, leave her. And it's just really, really good. And I cannot wait for the next episode where the fallout from this. I guess Sophia is in a really dangerous position because she could be effectively kidnapped or just killed by the Maronis that are still alive. Yeah. Because again, Victor could only really plow the Maserati into one of the Maroni thugs. Yeah. But, it disrupted the whole thing. You do hear a few gunshots as well going off, but Oz has been sort of safely extricated from this really bad position. Yeah.
And you're right. There's just little lines that he says as they're driving away, where he's like, "I'm so proud of you. I knew you'd come back. I always knew you would. You're fantastic. That was amazing. That was fantastic." But there's just that little maniacal laugh from him when he goes, "We're really in it now." It's that moment where you realize Penguin does love living on this kind of edge.
He does absolutely. It's because so good
when things work out for him. Even though this is just a very small win, he got out of there without being killed, so he can live for another day.
But, always live for the next day. Exactly. Absolutely,
exactly. But it's really a great end to the episode. So again, very excited for what's going to happen next week. That's kind of it for our case notes from the episode. Any notes? Anything you wanted to mention?
No, no notes from me.
One of the things I do like, just a quick note from me, one of the things I do like about this episode, once again, we see another member of the GCPD who are horrible in the city. Last time we saw them, it was a detective who was
Detective Wise,
who was addicted to drops, and he's the one that grabbed one of Maroni's men and dragged him over to the Falcone house. Here we have a traffic cop, effectively, who takes 800 quid from a young kid because he's parked in the wrong place. So once again, GCPD, horrible people in this show.
Absolutely. And Victor tells Oswald about this, and he's like, it's the cost of doing business in this town. Absolutely. Kind of thing.
Easy come, easy go kind of thing.
Yeah. And interestingly, though, I do wonder, because the cop must know whose premises he's outside.
Oh, so sure, yeah.
I guess he's just seen what he can get away with.
100%.
And he gets away with $800.
Exactly. That's the GCPD way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. One other quick note, just again referencing Gotham. In Gotham, there was a drug that came on the streets very early in the time of the series called Viper. If you remember, that was an early version of Venom, and it was giving people super strength, effectively. So that's how they dealt with it in Gotham. Here, Bliss really does seem like they've taken something from Arkham to deliver a euphoric high to people on the streets, but it doesn't seem like it has any supervillain creating side of it. That's not how they're going. It's a much more realistic thing. So it seems that they're kind of going for the idea of having heroin being replaced with ecstasy almost.
Exactly.
With the party kids taking this drug. So I just wanted to mention it just because we've been watching a lot of Gotham over the last couple of days. So that's all. Brilliant stuff. John, how would you rate this episode of The Penguin, episode 3?
I really loved this episode. Give it 5 bougie bachelor pads out of 5.
Nice.
And I really liked having, Victor threaded throughout this episode as Oz sort of seemingly wins around possibly Sophia and then doesn't.
Yes.
I like the fact that we have 2 points of view from Johnny Vitti and from the Triad Underboss, Link Sao, in terms of their view of Oz. That Sophia is there for both of those and is kind of processing that all the time. You have them effectively play that out about how can she trust him. You need to sort of get your sense of place. It's my deal. It's my party effectively with this.
Yeah.
And ultimately for Oz to betray her at the last moment, but for Victor to make his decision to stay in Gotham and to be deep in with Oz. As Oz says to him at the end, we're in it now. So I really enjoyed this. I think this pairing of Oz and Victor are really, really good.
Yeah.
I don't know how it will finish. I really hope that there is, in Gotham we had Oswald Cobblepot and Gabe, who was his
That's right.
sort of henchman. I really hope that this plays out similarly, because I'm absolutely loving this relationship of these two.
We
Tense.
We even had Penguin and Butch Gilzean, remember, as well. So we always had a henchman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tense. It's not entirely on firm foundations, but I think there's something there that means that they are kind of stuck together.
Yes.
And I really, really enjoy it. So yeah, I'd give this 5 bougie bachelor pads out of 5.
Fantastic. Yeah, totally with you, John. I think, despite the show being called The Penguin, this is proof again that this show is absolutely a three-hander between these three characters, between Penguin, Sophia, and Victor. And I can't take my eyes off any of them when they're on the screen. They're all really central to this story, and I'm loving seeing it from different point of views. Great job in this episode. Oh, John, I think I need to have a drink and a tab of bliss after this episode. I think we need to go down to the Iceberg Lounge.
Yes, our Iceberg Lounge quiz has suddenly taken a dark turn.
It has.
But fellow Gothamites, fellow quizzers, yes, welcome back to our Iceberg Lounge pub quiz for this series of Penguin. We're on episode 3, so of course we are on question 3. What does Oz order from the menu when out for dinner with Victor?
That's a pretty good one, because most people would remember what Victor ordered, but you may not have caught what Oz ordered. So, John, do you want to give the question one more time?
Sure. What does Oz order from the menu when out for dinner with Victor?
Fantastic. That's it. That's the third question in the pub quiz, our Iceberg Lounge quiz. Put that together with the correct answers for all the questions for this season of The Penguin and email us at the end of the series to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com with all the correct answers, and you could get your hands on some Penguin goodies. Thanks so much for joining us. We will speak to you again next time.
Yes, thank you so much, fellow Gothamites, for joining us. Remember, please stay subscribed to the podcast and, of course, share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Yes, it is.
Yes, we're also over on Patreon and Buy Me a Coffee as well, where you can support us if you wish to over there. But we will be back next week for the next episode of The Penguin, Saint Annie, 100 Years, on HBO, Now TV, and Sky Atlantic.
Absolutely.
Can't wait for you to join us.
Yeah, looking forward to episode 4. It'll be great. Thanks so much. Speak to you again next time.
Yes, as always, fellow Gothamites, until next time, keep watching, keep listening, and of course, keep waddling.
Bye.
Bye.